Right, joining us now is energy expert Maurice Ibe. Thank you very much for joining us on Newsnight. And just like I said earlier, I mean, this sounds like music to the ears, but I'd like to get your opinion about that, especially when you consider that Nigeria spends, well, before now, has been spending 24 trillion naira annually on importation of fuel. Now we're not going to be doing that anymore. Now the question is, will it resolve the questions of energy security, sustainable growth and affordability?
First and foremost, I think, thanks for having me on the program again. It's nice to be with you. I think this should have even come much earlier, as a matter of fact. The most critical thing right now is stopping importation of petroleum products lessens the pressure on our foreign exchange and our foreign reserves. So that's one advantage of doing that. And when you have a refinery that Dangote, which just took off and is trying to satisfy local production. And I remember I led the independent petroleum marketers. I initiated a transaction negotiating with Dangote refinery for them to be able to purchase directly. And during that meeting, the staffs of Dangote made clear to us that they have enough capacity to supply the domestic market. So if you have the capacity to supply the domestic market, what's the essence of still spending our hard-earned foreign reserves importing fuel?
And that's what Dangote has been saying. And we'll save about 40%.
I fully support him. And anybody who is still talking about importation should have his head examined at this point. It shouldn't be. Nobody should be speaking about importing any type of petroleum products. When I led it man to Dangote refinery, they told us that they could supply us as much as 30 million liters of PMS daily. They can supply us AGO, they can supply us jet fuel, they can supply us kerosene. So if they have covered the whole gamut of products we need in Nigeria, who should be talking about importation?
Well, so those who are talking about importation are saying they can get it cheaper.
It's impossible. Let's face facts. It's impossible. There's no way imported fuel can be cheaper than what you're producing locally. It just doesn't.
I mean, it defies logic.
It defies logic. So let's see what they're talking about. Let's break down the analysis and see what exactly they're talking about. But I don't think it's that possible.
And I'm glad you mentioned that Dangote said that he can actually provide about 30 million liters of fuel.
Exactly.
That will then maybe answer the question as to what exactly Nigerians have been consuming daily, because the numbers have varied, you know, from 30 million liters a day to 65. Some would even say as high as 90 million liters a day.
The truth of the matter is that I think the removal of subsidy and Dangote coming on stream will actually help Nigeria determine the actual figure we are consuming daily. We've been floating all manner of figures. I have done quite some studies, and so prior to removal of subsidy and this fuel skyrocketing all over the country, we were doing about 65 million liters daily from our own studies. Now, if you look around, most cars are no longer on the road, and people are driving less. So there's no way we can still be consuming that amount of fuel at this stage, because many vehicles have parked. People are now carpooling to get from point A to point B. So the consumption has dropped drastically. And I believe with Dangote refinery coming on stream fully, it will help the country determine the actual number, the actual figures in terms of our daily consumption of PMS.
Now, there have been a lot of questions around how this will impact on the costs at the pumps. To what extent? How much reduction in what we're buying now? I mean, from 1,110, like I bought yesterday here in Abuja, to 1,200 and 300 in some
places,
in some instances. That's as far away as Borno State, they're buying as high as 1,300. How much reduction really should we expect? And how soon can we begin to feel the impact of less pressure on the naira, on the economy?
In fact, it's been slow because of certain internal dynamics with independent petroleum marketers. As a matter of fact, they should have been lifting by now. We had our first meeting with Dangote refinery. I led that team. I think it was September 12th. This is November. So the independent petroleum marketers need to get their acts together. They are my clients, I'm their consultant, but I think they need to get their acts together. When I saw the press conference today, I was taken a little bit aback because I thought the president should have waited till a final agreement is reached with Dangote refinery and they join.
Well, he says an agreement has been reached, signed, sealed, and delivered.
Then that press conference should have been joined with Dangote refinery. Because rememember what happens between NNPC and Dangote refinery.
The back and
so
forth.
We don't want to go through all that. I thought if you have an agreement with Dangote refinery, there should be a joint press conference. You announce to the Nigerian public, these are the prices that we will be buying, and these are the prices we'll be selling. This way, we won't wake up tomorrow to hear a different story. That solves that matter. But we expect a reasonable drop in price of petroleum products because now there'll be no arbitrage trading. They will not be buying from third and fourth parties. They are now lifting directly from Dangote refinery. So the only issue right now will be the cost of transportation. Because if you are lifting from Lagos to Maiduguri or from Lagos to Kano, as opposed to going from Lagos to Lagos, the price differential. Exactly. But definitely we expect a reasonable drop in prices. Those figures, we'll crunch them, and hopefully Nigerians will feel a little bit of succor at the end of the day.
We can't wait for that. Now, this talk about Dangote refinery and other refineries. I mean, you're a player in the sector. Who are these other refineries? How many of them really are viable as we speak?
There are small boutique refineries. I think the first one that actually took off is owned by Walter Smith in Ohaji Ebuema area. It's a small refinery.
In Imo State?
Yes, in Imo State. It's a small refinery, and there are a few other pocket ones springing up in the south and other parts of the country. But the prominent one that we know, that I know, that is functioned fully is the Walter Smith refinery, which is located on Ohaji Ebuema, and it's been refining for quite some time. Right now, the game changer is Dangote refinery and petrochemicals. We can't be more happier for Dangote coming on stream.
So Nigerians can begin to look forward to stronger Naira?
Absolutely, absolutely. And less pressure, really. Less pressure on our foreign reserves. So that should be able to help us economically to a certain extent.
It's a good place to live in. Thank you so much, Maurice Ibe, energy expert, joining us on Newsnight tonight.